Everyone assumed the cadets were just playing a prank until the first scream cut through the bright morning air. No one expected the sunlit parade ground to become the place where a woman's courage would be tested and where a husband would fall out of the sky to save her. Lieutenant Mara Keaton had been inspecting the training yard when the group of young cadets circled her. At first, it looked harmless. A question here, a smirk there. But then one of them grabbed her wrist. Another snatched the clipboard from her hand. Before she could process what was happening, rough ropes were already tightening around her arms, her back pressed against the bark of a towering pine tree. Their laughter echoed across the field, sharp and careless, dancing on the dust rising from their boots. In the distance, some recruits paused their drills, whispering, unsure whether to intervene or pretend nothing was happening. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Mara's heart hammered. She wasn't afraid of pain. Years of service had carved resilience into her bones. But humiliation stung deeper than any bruise. The cadets taunted her, calling her soft, calling her unfit to lead, and each word hit harder than the rope biting her skin. She tried to reason with them. She tried to order them. They only laughed louder. One of them yanked her cap from her head and tossed it aside like a toy. She glanced toward the base buildings, hoping someone had seen, hoping someone cared enough to step closer. For a moment, she thought she'd never see her husband again. She was wrong. Above the distant hills, a sound grew, deep, rhythmic, unmistakable. The ground trembled softly. Dust curled upward from the training yard like the earth itself was holding its breath. A few cadets lifted their heads, confusion flickering across their faces. Whoa! The bright sky split with the shape of a military helicopter descending fast, its shadow sweeping over the field and silencing every murmur. Neighbors from the nearby housing cluster stepped out onto porches. Workers paused mid-stride. A ripple of unease spread through the crowd forming along the fence. Something was happening. Something bigger than teenage arrogance. The helicopter touched down in a storm of sunlight and spinning air. The side door flung open. Captain Jonathan Keaton, her husband, jumped out before the skids fully settled. His boots hit the earth with purpose. His jaw clenched, eyes locked onto Mara, as if nothing else in the world existed. The cadets froze. Their earlier bravado evaporated. Jonathan moved like a soldier trained for crisis. But inside, his fear roared. He'd received only half a message over the comms. Your wife, trouble, yard. It had been enough to ignite every protective instinct within him. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply stepped in front of the cadets, staring at each one until they looked down at the ground like children who finally understood the weight of their choices. With a swift motion, he cut the ropes binding Mara. The crowd watched, breathless, as she fell forward into his arms, dust clinging to her uniform. She wasn't fragile, but in that moment, she allowed herself to tremble, allowed herself to feel. The cadets stammered excuses. One tried to claim it was a test of her leadership. Another muttered that they didn't know she was married to a captain. Their words were flimsy paper shields against the truth. Jonathan didn't raise his voice. He spoke with quiet authority. Disappointment sharpened his tone more than anger ever could. He told them leadership wasn't earned through cruelty. That strength wasn't measured by who you could break, but by who you could lift. The trainees stood ashamed, sunlight exposing every flaw they tried to hide. And then something unexpected happened. The oldest cadet stepped forward, his voice shaking. He apologized, not the rehearsed kind, but the raw human kind that cracks the air. One by one, the others followed. Some neighbors clapped softly, some wiped their eyes. It felt like the entire base exhaled at once. Mara stood tall beside her husband, brushing dust from her uniform as the ropes lay forgotten on the grass. She wasn't rescued because she was weak. She was rescued because she was worth standing up for, and because love, when tested, shows its truest shape. Because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits, and it finds its way back. And sometimes it arrives in a helicopter under the blazing morning sun. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments, tap the like button, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of courage, humanity, and hope.